Hello and welcome. I'm Charlotte Jamison, your host for Leading with Connection, and today I'm sitting down with Ben Kirkbride. Ben, so nice to see you again after all of these years. We first met, do you think it's 20 years ago?
Yep,
Almost.
be around 20 years ago, probably around the 2000 and in the 2000s somewhere.
Yep. So Ben and I met working at John Holland in the safety team. So Ben, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners and just share a little bit
Sure.
about what you've been doing?
Hey, Charlotte, and hello to everyone who is watching this at a later stage. Look, honoured to be here. I think my career started, as Charlotte just said, back in John Holland as a trainee safety advisor. Geez, it's quite a number of years ago, and I think from that point in time, I've sat in a number of kind of project health and safety roles. And as kind of you sort of grow in your career, you kind of end up on bigger projects. So held a lot of project positions in major projects, and then kind of the last sort of 6 to probably 8 years is where I started to really kind of position myself in the heads of in some organisations through kind of Roberts Co. previously at Gamuda and now at Goodman. And right now, I sit in the head of health, safety, quality, environment for Goodman in their data centre teams. Lots of experience from boots on ground to now leadership roles and everything in between. Is probably a nice way to sum it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's gonna be a great chat. So from your point of view then, Ben, leading with connection, when I say that, what, in your own words, what does that mean to you?
Look, I think, from a leadership perspective, but also from a I suppose a health and safety lens as well. To me, leading with connection is about genuine curiosity with people. And I think that's kind of by design, that in health and safety, you ultimately have to be curious. Work health and safety in and of itself is about people connection. It's not about the systems. It's not about the processes or the procedures. Whilst all that's important, you're actually trying to influence and understand people at the core, to effectively understand what people do and how best health and safety can support them, right? From a leadership point of view, and then obviously into the other sort of bureaucratic layers.
Yeah. Because without that curiosity, it's it's a bit dull really as well. Everyone's just the same.
Yeah. And I don't think it's not necessarily about their output, right? It's about their experience. So how can you, without connection, understand what's the extra baggage that they carry? Connection isn't soft, it's about being strategic. If people don't trust their leader, they won't necessarily raise the issue or have a conversation where it's needed. And that's when the real problems begin, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's often seen as, oh, nothing to see here, so everything's working really well. It's like, actually, that's a massive red flag if nobody's saying the issues. And
I recently heard an analogy at the conference I attended last week, and they were talking about health and safety metrics, right? And they were saying, "Oh, is it a watermelon?" And I went, "It's an interesting kind of analogy. What do you mean by watermelon?" And effectively, what they mean is green on the outside. So you're getting all the ticks and all the greens in terms of leading indicators are working really well, but you go into that deeper layer, and effectively that's when you find the red. So we have this new motto in safety: is it's interrogate the green, and applaud the red, because essentially it means that people are talking at things below the surface that might be the stuff that is maybe harder to talk about or is a bit kind of confronting. But that's at the heart of kind of getting to that centerpiece of leading with connection, right? Is understanding what it is that people are either frustrated about or afraid to talk about. And if you don't have that connection with them at that human layer, then you're not going to find the real answer, right? They're just going to give you the box tick answer or the standard "I'm okay" answer, or that kind of generic response that typically doesn't invite any more discussion.
Yeah. And the leader thinks they're kicking ass because, you're not getting
There's no issues.
Yeah, there's no issues.
There's no issues. There was an example that stood out for me only recently, in the last kind of sort of four years. So I was the head of safety for a company called Gamuda, infrastructure business. We were effectively at the time delivering our first major project here in Sydney, major tunnelling contract, and we had a bit of attrition on that project. A couple of safety directors left the project, and I felt the team needed a bit of stability at the time. So I stepped in as interim leader of a fairly large work health and safety team on this major project. The team had been through, a fair bit. People felt unsettled. And I think the very first thing that I focused on in taking sort of that interim role until we found someone wasn't on the tasks itself or the deadlines or completing the next monthly report. It was understanding what the team needed, right? It was understanding, because we had a team of, I think, 19 to 22 kind of health and safety people, right, from workers' comp all the way through to advisors. Everyone's got stuff going on at home, on their sites, and we had to understand that. And I think it was more about building their trust quickly, because I was the corporate head of safety, and even though I knew some of those team members, which were kind of fortunate enough to kind of bring into the project to assist,
Yeah.
but for the wider team was about building their trust. So quickly building that trust, creating the space for kind of honest conversation, again, hunting that kind of red bit out, and building an environment where people felt safe enough to perform their day job, but then safe enough to say when things weren't working, right? And there was a bit of that, where they, may have found the leader they had before them, they couldn't speak to them, or it was kind of early days. They haven't had that relationship with them before. And I reckon that experience for me shaped everything I believe about leading with connection. Where have I seen some leaders that don't cut through, or where that doesn't quite pan out the way that they'd like it to? There's 3 points, but I think the first one for me is about leading through compliance instead of the conversation, which can be quite challenging in the world of safety, right? Because when you're on a major project and things are tough, and clients watching, and you need to perform, when you've got lots of work going on, turnover of people, and obviously a significant program as we all face. It's easy for people to start to slip back into the using rules as a substitute for genuine engagement. We need to do this because we've got to hit a KPI. We need to do this because the client knows that we're underperforming in a particular area. Mate, I tell you, if you want to kind of call that out, the best people to call that out is usually the workers, right? Because we see straight through that. We're seeing leaders push compliance, instead of going, what is going wrong here? What is at the heart of some of the performance areas that we've got, and what do we actually need to improve it, as opposed to just throwing another safety initiative at it, or another fad because it's worked on the previous project, right? And if you don't engage, and you don't kind of invite that response from people that are actually in it day to day, then you just won't. People will see straight through it.
What do you think makes the leaders fall into the compliance? I think everybody leads with intention. They start off with the best intentions, but we fall into defaults, or we fall into different ways of leading, or following compliance because of certain things. What have you seen are the reasons why people kind of fall into that?
I think my response is probably a little bit skewed by the fact that safety can sometimes be a very compliance orientated discipline.
That's
so
true.
Safety as a tick in the box, as opposed to a relationship. I think people have got biases there sometimes around what is good safety performance. So I think sometimes leaders get kind of drawn into that compliance tick, probably a little bit too often. I think the ones that get it know that it actually isn't about kind of having a safety conversation. It's having a conversation about performance and what people are feeling that's good about something, what potentially is getting in the way, and what do people see that they need to be doing more of or less of. But this little activity is performed in with a bunch of senior leaders and a cross section of workers. It's a consultation tool, and we ask 3 main questions: what's working, what's not, and how can we make it better? That's as simple as this activity is. And it doesn't matter where that individual sits in terms of whether it's a worker, a staff member, an executive member. Even though we frame that up around being an open conversation and a psychological safe space and all that kind of stuff, people will still talk about the heart of the issue, right? It's fascinating. And generally, 9 times out of 10, it isn't safety issues that get raised. That is the issue. It's the time constraints. It's the program constraints. It's the we don't have resources, or we don't have the right tools, right? The fascinating thing is, if leaders go out and have a safety conversation, they'll usually get a safety response. Yep, things are working well. It's compliant. We're good. But if you ask questions at a deeper level, without actually any kind of bias, that's where I think you get the real nuggets, golden nuggets of information. And I think sometimes individuals' biases and just the way that people naturally are when they engage with people sometimes gets in the way of that.
That is brilliant. So it just loops back into your whole idea around connection is this curiosity. But if you've got the right questions to ask, you get more helpful answers. You ask a pointed question around safety and you get a safety answer, which is not necessarily the whole picture. This is brilliant. And I do believe that the reason why people sometimes default back to that compliance is because they don't have the skills or the framework to have those more powerful questions. And building that skill in asking really helpful questions can really be a useful thing because you can get to the, as you say, the heart of it.
Yeah, I think it, and you would know my kind of, I suppose, career trajectory to here, right? And when you're in health and safety roles, you get educated and you grow your experience in a particular field, and sometimes early career that's technical. And if we've heard that saying in careers that what got you there won't get you to the next role, and that's so true, because as you grow into kind of leadership roles, it's less about the technical side and it's more about building the connection, and it's about the human layer. And I think that the other 2 points I wanted to make quickly as to where I think maybe leaders fall short is, first of all, assuming positional authority earns trust. I've got a big title, and we all know that doesn't. Rank gets you compliance. Connection gets you honesty. Yeah.
Beautiful.
The other one I wanted to point out was just that most leaders, as they grow, and it's less about technical, and you said it before, they often skip that human layer because of pressure, right? So when projects get tough, leaders often default to task mode, which is pretty easy to do, mind you, which is exactly when connection matters the most, right? Where you kind of need to understand where the pain points are, and that only comes from talking to the people at the heart of the delivery. And if you find out that, if you crack that nut, then it's obviously going to make the job of either rectifying something or continuing to do something well even easier.
Yeah, it is amazing how time pressure people default. Even the best of us. I even see this in my parenting. I'll default to the way we were parented, and I'm like, wow, that was my mother or my father, or And it's not necessarily a bad thing, Mum. But it's you just default to what you know, because we all had leaders who led in a different way to what leaders need to lead these days. And it doesn't always get to the core of things.
There's a little symbol. I think it was back in maybe the Hollands days, and we projects used to do, like, they used to get a leadership coach in every now and then, and I still remember to this day.
Has it me?
No, it wasn't you, unfortunately. You probably started my enthusiasm in the leadership space for sure. But John Lane Smith.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things that he said, which has stuck with me literally my whole career, and I often share this with my peers and direct reports as well, is don't forget to pause.
Yeah.
Right? He literally drew this dog paw, and that little dog paw was a symbol to kind of go, when you're in those conversations and you're trying to build connection, don't forget the importance of pausing. and I share it with lots of people. Very, very simple, very effective, because that little gap invites a response. And as leaders, I think we're always people always turn to us to kind of go, right, what's the answer now? Give us the answer, Mr. Leader. And it's like, well, I don't have all the answers, because this isn't about technical understanding anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's Viktor Frankl has an incredible quote that I always go back to, is that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is your power to choose. And I've butchered that quote because I always butcher quotes, but it's really that power to invite someone in. But we don't do it because it's kind of uncomfortable. A pause is quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
People are like, ooh, ugh, what do we do here? Like, fill it, fill
You've
it,
got to
fill it.
feel the space. Yeah.
Yeah. Inexperienced leaders don't want to feel like they're a fraud or they're being seen through. So they need to sort of talk and have the answers, have the answers. Whereas a really great leader is someone who enables the answers from somebody else because they're okay to listen and to hear what that person needs because we
Yeah.
do know what we need and we don't often get asked and we don't often take that time. But that pause is really powerful. Um, yeah, but we don't like discomfort, so we do whatever we can to ick away from it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And it's pretty natural to fill the space. I mean, as humans, we're very much conversational creatures. It comes back with those kind of softer skills where you learn to do that over time, not just kind of approach things the same way you've always done it. Maybe we can talk about some of the things that maybe leaders can do to ensure connection. I've got a couple of points around that. We've talked about where some of the leaders get stuck.
Yep.
So let's maybe talk about what type of things that leaders can do to improve
Yeah. Yeah.
potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, and this is a bit of a reflection of my own kind of theory as well as probably some of the things that I've seen in others. But I've got three.
Okay.
I've got, and this is a pretty hot topic at the moment with psychosocial safety legislation and the like. And I think that can be quite daunting. My first point around this is creating kind of a psychologically safe space deliberately. I think you model it by being honest yourself. Charlotte, look, I want to have a conversation with you. It might be about performance. It might be about safety practices. It might be about the way that they're treating their own kind of reports or whatever it is. And if I start the conversation with, hey, look, I'm going to have a pretty open and candid conversation with you about X, and maybe setting that up a week out, right? So you kind of go, want to have the conversation with you a week out. We're going to have it here. It's a casual coffee catch up. I don't need to prepare anything. We're going to talk about some things that you've done in the last few months that I think it's worthwhile communicating to you, so that you feel comfortable about what we're talking about, but also it might give you some insights about how you might continue to perform either well or better going forward, right? And I think by even just simple framing things up and giving people a chance to kind of go, what is it? What am I going to go with? What am I anticipating? And then that way, when you get into the conversation, you're not spending the first 30 minutes framing it up. Then you can literally dive in, right? You can go, right, well, wanted to get to you to talk about this, and then because they've had a chance to understand what you're talking about, they can quickly dive into the things that are frustrating them as well, and you get to that amicable place quicker.
Yeah.
And then you can have your follow up. So I think, creating psychological safety deliberately, I think, is important. I think the second one for me is about normalizing the struggle, right? And going, this isn't actually that easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if I reflect about my story that I provided before, complex projects, stuff happens, right? Things go wrong. And I think leaders who name that reality and invite people into the conversation to solve it. So I think it's recognizing the struggle, recognizing that motor projects are tough. Know that if you kind of frame things up and you can have that conversation quicker and easier, faster, then you get to the solution quicker, right? And people are less vulnerable is kind of what I mean. So, but recognizing the struggle, I think, is important. And I think the last one I wanted to mention, if leaders can think about consistency at the edges, about how you show up when things are hard, when you're tired, when there's pressure, and that's when your team will decide whether they really trust you or not. Because when things are rosy and things are going well, it's natural that you can have conversations framing things up. But when you've got to achieve the milestones of the program and you're up against it from a project budget point of view, and you've had a couple of incidents and your teams are scrambling around all the things they've got to do, that's the moment that matters.
Absolutely. And if you practice in the good times, you flex those muscles. And so in those harder times, you're making that the default, the habit. They're excellent, Ben. I love them. And I love the framing because, we're prediction making machines, our brains. And that's why we really like certainty. And that's why uncertainty freaks us out. So if you've ever had that email the night before where the boss is like, oh, can you come and see me in the morning? And you spend all night all night thinking, my God, what, like,
That's right.
all the things I've
Doomed.
ever done wrong in my whole entire life. They know about, you know what? And you catastrophize, because that's what the brain does. It focuses on the negative, and it's uncertain. So yeah, it really does freak out. But if you can help that brain have that prediction, okay, we're going to talk about this. And you stipulated as well, it's going to be coffee, it's going to be casual, with the purpose, the intention is to improve. And I think that's the best gift you can give someone, is the gift of your time to sit down and chat, but also to say, this is what we are explaining, because it gives them a chance as well to say, okay, if I want to talk about something that's not working, like, what do I want to say, and what do I need help with? It gives them that chance as well, recognizing the struggle and normalizing it and saying, of course you're feeling this way, or of course we're experiencing this because we are under time restraints, or we are under all these sorts of things. So yeah, recognizing that they're human as well, and you are human as well, is really important. And I've never heard of consistency at the edges. I love that. That's really cool, and that really helps make sure that you've put some time into creating a habit out of leading with connection. So in saying that, what would be one little takeaway that you think would be great for people to think about?
Yeah, I reckon my kind of one thing that I think listeners can try before your next team interaction, right? Whether that might be a meeting, that might be a site walk, it might be a one-on-one, ask just one genuine question about how someone is actually going, and then resist the urge to fill the silence. Like, just practice not saying or reframing the question, because you've got to fill the gap.
I love that. You've just combined a couple of your things. You've got the pause in there, but you've also got the quality question.
Yeah. Because I think at the end of the day, right, curiosity before connection before direction.
Yeah.
And that one habit done consistently completely changes the whole dynamic. Completely.
It does.
I think in all the interactions that I've had since that aha moment, and remembering that kind of pause reflection, it just the answers that you get, you would never you'd almost preconceive in that space what people were going to respond with. And I've been brutally shocked to know that if you don't fill that gap, that what you thought they might have said is not what they said. And that little gift that they give you back is so much more powerful for you going forward, creating that connection.
Well, I think you've just uncovered another great thing, humility. I think for you to be able to recognize that you were missing something, and by pausing, you're now gaining so much more information. I think it takes a lot of humility for a leader to keep improving. So I think we've uncovered just another one, which is great. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to chat. I look forward to witnessing the progress that you keep making in your career and the many lives you're touching. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlotte. It's always a pleasure. Great to connect with you again, and I look forward to hearing about who might be on the podcast next, because I think these things is two-way, right? You kind of, you offer something up, but in turn, you may listen back to another podcast or maybe future podcasts, and you always gain something out of a rewatch or a hearing from others as well. So looking forward to staying in touch and seeing who comes on next.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Ben. See ya.
Opinions and information shared on this podcast are for general purposes and should not be considered as specific advice or services.